I'm talking today with Gustav Grundin of O2 Czech Republic. Gustav, you took part here at the FTTH Council event today on an executive panel, one of the subjects being copper versus fibre. Tell me what the outcome was.
Yes, I don't think we reached a conclusion. I think you rarely do in these discussions, but I think this never-ending debate on the value of copper and the role of copper is taking a slightly different shift. I think it is important to remember that copper has been declared dead again and again and again. 1972, we had our transmission limit of 2,400 bauds. It wasn't even called bits per second at that time, it was called bauds. And that was considered to be the absolute maximum. 1978, we had 19.2 kilobits, but this was really, really, really the maximum. And so it's gone on. But what has happened now is that in order to increase the speed of copper, we have shortened the copper loop so much that the fiber is now so close that the next step for me is simply to go fiber all the way. The cost of equipment for fiber deployment has gone down such that the cost of labor is now the dominant component, and this means that in Eastern Europe and a fair chunk of Southern Europe, the economics have completely changed, and in most cases, we would just go all the way instead. That said, as a caveat, we should also keep in mind that for all practical purposes, for almost all countries, more than 50% will never ever be covered with fiber, and in those remaining areas, it's simply not economical. Copper will still be the main technology.
Before we come back to that, just tell us about some of the other subjects that the panel debated.
Yes, I think one classic subject is also European regulation or European frameworks with regards to this. And I think here we have differing views, but to summarize in short, I think one concern is that there might not be a European answer to these questions around infrastructure. There might be in other areas of policy or public policy, but the situation is simply too different with regards to population density, purchasing power, existing infrastructure. And my view is that there is no European solution. There are national solutions at best.
Right.
At best.
Yeah.
And there was a discussion around the subsidy program, upcoming subsidy program from the European Union, who is likely to invest substantial amounts of money into deploying fiber. And although that sounds as a great idea and hopefully will be a great idea, there are also risks associated with this. Risks that we choose to make inefficient investments in inappropriate technologies in the wrong places, leading actually to less coverage for a smaller population than you would hope. And this might sound counterintuitive, but this is a real risk.
Now, just going back to copper versus fibre, I believe that you personally are a recent convert to fibre.
I am indeed. I have spent the last 12 years evaluating fibre business cases in various operators around the globe, and I have consistently been a fibre skeptic and said that it's a technology limited to certain specific high-density population or high-density wealth areas. Now, I have changed my mind, frankly. I think I have been proven right in the past. But as of late, I must say I've changed my mind. And
everything changes, doesn't it?
Yes, and I think the one thing that I didn't see coming, we were all thinking about these Internet of Things and X-rays sending back and forth. There was none of that. It was the simple fact that large television screens became cheaper. And I never thought HD would matter, because I had a television screen that was 21 inch at the time. But once that became 50 or 60, suddenly HD mattered a lot.
Yeah.
And now we have in US 46% of population have more than 2 HD TVs. You have almost 8 parallel connected devices that are streaming HD in parallel. And when this comes and becomes 4K, which people now say we don't need, but I say wait until the screens get bigger, and they will, then I think we're in a deep mess, and standalone copper will in that case not be sufficient.
And how's the market in the Czech Republic? I know you're the incumbent operator. How are you coping with all this demand?
Yes, we are. The market in the Czech Republic is relatively unique in the sense that beyond the traditional copper incumbent and the traditional cable player, the large cable player, in our case UPC, there is a plethora of very small Wi-Fi players. And what they do is they essentially have a point to multi-point Wi-Fi antenna covering a city, or no, not a city, a town. So we have thousands of these. So 30% of all the fixed broadband is provided by operators with something like 1,000 subscribers. And this is a very different technology. Partly because of this, we have been relatively late in our fiber rollout compared to some of the other European cities, but we are coming strong now, I can assure you that.
Fantastic, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
So a very interesting conversation there with Fibre Convert from the Czech Republic.